Coming up here on the Raiders Report, the Aidan O'Connell trade rumors have picked up over the weekend. I'll break down what's the latest going on around the quarterback situation. Also, why would the Raiders want to trade away AOC? I'll also tell you why they could potentially end up keeping number 12. And then, what exactly does the trade value look like for Mr. Aidan O'Connell? Before today's show starts, I want you to join the family. Help us get to 191,000 subscribers here on the Raiders Report. We will be live for the 2025 NFL Draft and join the number one most watched Raiders channel for the big day. Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And if you haven't seen the latest on Aidan O'Connell, it was reported by Vic Tafur that the Las Vegas Raiders could potentially trade Aidan O'Connell during the 2025 NFL Draft. The report came in from Vic and The Athletic, and this is what he had to say. Still bringing in a young quarterback to learn behind Smith makes sense, and we think the Raiders might trade Aidan O'Connell on draft weekend. New minority owner Tom Brady likes the idea of rookie quarterbacks sitting and soaking it all in, and there are some interesting options even in what is a down year in the draft for quarterbacks. So if you don't know what the details are around Aidan, he's got a $1.2 million cap hit, which obviously is not a lot, considering the amount of games that he has played at the quarterback position. If the Raiders do end up trading him on draft day, the dead money is $255K. You save $903. So the money that you would add for your salary cap is $903,000. Obviously, it's not a lot of money. The money's not going to be the reason why the Raiders do or do not end up trading Aidan. It's really just going to come down to the value. And speaking of value, this is kind of why I could see the Raiders trying to move on from Aidan O'Connell. And, I knew when I do this show, people are going to be like, Mitch, you just don't like Aidan. My job is here always to be able to outline what I believe in, what I don't believe. And I do believe if the Raiders want to trade Aidan, you are selling high as it stands right now, because I'll be honest, I don't know if Aidan's trade value is ever going to be higher than what it is right now. He was drafted in the 4th round. He's played in 20 games. He started in 17 of those games in 2 years. He has dealt with multiple different head coaches, multiple different regimes, and if Aidan O'Connell doesn't play in the year 2025, and no disrespect to Aidan, I hope that he doesn't step on the field. I hope Geno Smith is able to hold it down and able to do his thing. And if Aidan doesn't end up playing, his value will go down in the year 2026, and then he's only got 1 year left on his contract, which sure, maybe you end up doing the deal then, but at the end of the day, I am somebody that wants to take advantage of the best deals that are possible, and yes, I do think Aidan is limited as a starter, but I'll tell you this right now, and I've said it before, I think he's going to be in the NFL a long time, going to be a long career backup, somebody like a Brian Hoyer, where if you need him as a spot starter because your guy goes down, you can rely on him. He can also pick up offenses. He is a very smart quarterback, and he has been able to show that even though he is not athletically gifted, he is a gamer with 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and you have to be able to respect what he's been able to do for the Raiders because he's been doubted his entire career, and quite frankly, he is somebody that is easy to root for. Here's another reason, though, of why Aidan O'Connell couldn't happen. You got a brand new regime, and this is nothing new. We have talked about new regimes every single year, every single offseason, because every single offseason the Raiders seem to have a brand new regime. And the fact that Aidan was drafted by Josh McDaniels, by Dave Ziegler in 2023 for a 4th-round pick, think about if you were to get a car in 2023. If you're able to swap out that car for almost exactly what you paid for it 2 years later, that's kind of like a win. And because this is going to be the 3rd regime in 3 years, it wouldn't shock me if Aidan was like, you know what, man? I wouldn't mind going to another destination that I know for a fact that it's not going to be consistently changing all the time, because when you're a backup quarterback in the NFL, you need some consistency. And I also know that Pete Carroll and John Spytek, they are clearly bringing in some of their guys. I will admit, I do think Aidan fits under the umbrella of what Pete Carroll and John Spytek look for, guys that work their freaking tail off, guys that love football. But if you are trying to bring in your own guy, I could see that being a reason why this team would try to move on from AOC. So this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, which means it's the number one question that I want the nation to answer this morning. Trade or keep? Will the Raiders trade Aidan O'Connell during the 2025 NFL Draft? My answer is going to stay the exact same, and I'm not trying to knock on Tafur, but when Tafur or anybody from The Athletic puts out information, you just got to take it as an opinion. And looking at the Aidan O'Connell trade situation should be very similar to the way that we talked about the Jack Jones situation, where if Jack Jones ended up getting cut, it was like, all right, like I can understand why, and he obviously ended up doing it. If Aidan O'Connell ends up getting traded, I'll sit up here and go, oh, I can understand why the Raiders ended up trading Aidan. So I'll sit here, the same thing I said a month ago. I would say there is a 50% chance that Aidan O'Connell is traded, which means that there's a 50% chance that he's on the Raiders roster come week 1. Let's go to another reason here of why the Raiders could end up moving on from AOC. This team will end up drafting a quarterback. One of the things that I discussed on our show on Friday was when you look at the top 30 visits, the Raiders have 8 to 9 quarterback top 30 visits, and you consider the fact that basically 30% of your top 30s are at the quarterback position. That tells me that this team is obviously interested in a quarterback. It's not breaking news that this regime is obviously looking at trying to bring somebody in, and they have looked at multiple different types of quarterbacks. Like, I could do a show of why the Raiders are going to take a quarterback in round 1. I could do a show of why the Raiders are going to take a quarterback in round 2. Hell, I'm going to end up doing a show breaking down every single quarterback that the Raiders could take round by round because of all the different QBs that the Silver and Black have shown interest in. And I know that some people don't think that I like Aidan, but I do think Aidan is a top 40 quarterback in the NFL. And I do think that he's way too good of a QB to be a QB3 on any roster in the NFL. But when you consider some of these top 30 visits, like, he's going to go out there, and if the Raiders end up drafting any one of these guys, they are going to be competing with Aidan O'Connell. I don't want to sit up here and say they're not going to compete with Geno, because I do think Geno is the guy. But Pete Carroll, if there's one coach where you can't say that the starting quarterback's going to compete or not going to compete, it's with Pete, because he's already shown it once before with Russell Wilson. But the other reason why, and you know, I almost want Raider fans a little bit to, like, pump the brakes on, because there's still some people out there that don't think Geno's the guy, or I've seen Aidan O'Connell is better than Geno. With all due respect, like, let's just get a grip here. Aidan's not a better quarterback than Geno, but I do think that sentiment, or, like, Pete Carroll and John Spytek, they want you to buy into Geno. They want Raiders fans to rally behind Geno and believe in him the way that they do. And I do worry that if you're somebody that just loves Aidan O'Connell and you're blindly looking at Aidan, which, let's just be honest, we've seen it before it happens. If you're blindly looking at Aidan and you're not showing love to Geno, if this new regime just traded for Geno and paid him, they want you to fall in love with him. And if there was a divide amongst the nation, I would just get rid of the simpler thing that gets rid of the divide. And getting rid of Aidan would make more Raiders fans buy into Geno Smith instead of sitting there going, just start Aidan O'Connell over Geno Smith. So if that's you, you could be the reason why Aidan ends up getting traded. We got more stuff coming up here in just a moment. But before we get into it, though, if you haven't already seen the Raiders draft hats, they come in all different shapes, sizes, with the pin, without a pin. You can get the Allegiant Stadium pin. I think it costs a few extra dollars more. But if you go to chatsports.com/Raiders hats, they're going to be at the very, very top. You can get a snapback. You can get like a fitted cap. You can get one of the more of like easily adjustable caps. Like for me personally, I would probably rock this one. I like the snapback look a little bit more. And if you also want to rock the snapback look, these new draft hats are pretty freaking dope. Let's go to now some reasons coming up here of why I think the Raiders could keep Aidan O'Connell. Because just because Vic Tafur says the Raiders are going to trade somebody, it almost makes me think that it's less likely going to happen. But just because it's being reported, I think we also have to look at why the Raiders could keep Aidan and the value that he has on this team now and going in the future. Pete Carroll loves competition, and he's already been able to show you in years past that if you draft a quarterback and you're the better guy, he's going to play you. And that's something that I could see end up happening with Aidan and a new quarterback. But let's get one thing straight here. AOC would be great competition for any rookie quarterback that the Raiders draft. I don't care if it's somebody that's an athletic freakazoid like Jalen Milroe, if it's somebody that's already worked with Chip Kelly like Will Howard, if it's somebody you draft in round 1 like Shedeur Sanders. I don't give a shit who it is. that quarterback is going to get better playing next to Aidan O'Connell because of the competition that guy's going to bring. And then also, I'm not sure if a rookie quarterback would be better than AOC if Geno Smith were to go down, because I do believe in Shedeur. I like Jaxson Dart as a development, but there's a lot of quarterbacks in this year's class where if you were to tell me right now you got to play him, that QB or Aidan, I might make the argument that Aidan gives you a better chance to win right now. But that's the real question. What exactly is the Raiders' quarterback plan? And depending on who they end up drafting, we might be able to paint a little bit of a better picture than that. But if you're drafting a quarterback and you want that quarterback to be your future in 2 to 3 years, honestly, I'd probably keep Aidan O'Connell, because I do think competing against Aidan will make that rookie quarterback better. Why would you trade away your quarterback to insurance? Because if you're Tom Brady and you're sitting up here telling me, hey, I want to be able to draft a quarterback and I don't want them to see the field for 2 to 3 years, God forbid Geno Smith gets hurt, and then you're going to toss that whole plan out the window, and now you're just going to put that rookie quarterback out into the flame, that doesn't make any sense. What would make more sense is you let Geno Smith be QB1, you let Aidan and a rookie compete it out, and if Geno goes down, you let Aidan O'Connell step in, and you continue to let that rookie learn and get better for 2 to 3 years down the road. I know the Raiders don't want to rush the progress of a rookie quarterback, but then also if you go out and you draft somebody where you're like, you know what, this is just a project player that we don't really believe in long term, well then sure, but at the exact same time, I think it should be about competing and trying to put the best product on the field, and I do think Aidan O'Connell has a lot of value in that. Now, if you're telling me we get a great draft pick for him, yeah, I'll trade Aidan, but I'm not just going to trade Aidan O'Connell for the sake of trading Aidan O'Connell, which is why you could end up keeping him. If the values of a trade are bad, you don't need to do it. Like, to me, I do think Aidan is too valuable for a rookie. I also think he's too valuable for this football team, and I do think that he brings a lot of great X's and O's and really helps out your team, especially in practice. Like, I would want at least a 5th-round pick for AOC, and some people might not think that that's enough. I think we also just got to look at ourselves in the mirror here and go, you should get something very similar to probably what the Joe Milton trade was. Now, there were some reports out there that the Patriots ended up trading Milton to the Cowboys for less because Milton, his family grew up a Cowboys fan. He wanted to go to Dallas. Whether that's true or not, there were multiple teams out there that were interested in Joe Milton. The Raiders were also reported being interested in Milton. And if that's the type of quarterback that you're looking for, Joe Milton is a much, much different quarterback than Aidan O'Connell. But, like, I'm not just going to trade AOC for a 2026 7th-round pick. To me, that doesn't really follow the plan. It doesn't really fit with what this team is doing. But, like I've said before, I do trust this regime. I just need to know what exactly is the plan. And trading away Aidan O'Connell would open up my eyes a little bit more of saying that the rookie quarterback that the Raiders end up bringing in maybe is somebody that they think can play right away, just in case Geno Smith does go down. In case you missed it, if you didn't see on Friday, we went live for the Raiders Report. We did our March Madness finale. Huge shout out to David Rubio for winning $1,600 and ended up taking down everybody in our March Madness bracket. Had a lot of fun. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Appreciate everyone that joined the March Madness bracket. And congratulations again to David Rubio for going home with $1,600. Rubio, check your Venmo. Let's also break down some of these AOC trade destinations because, you know, we can't just say, oh, Aidan O'Connell could be tradable. What are some teams that are interested? The New England Patriots, Josh McDaniels, he's there. I know they already have Josh Dobbs, who's the backup for Drake May, but I'm always just going to say Josh McDaniels has to be somebody to keep in mind. The Pittsburgh Steelers are an intriguing name to me. Like, what happens if this Aaron Rodgers stuff continues? What if Pittsburgh does want to try to draft a quarterback? I'll tell you this right now. I think Aidan O'Connell is better than Mason Rudolph. And I think if you gave Aidan a really good defense like Pittsburgh, I think Aidan could go out there for the Pittsburgh Steelers and win 8, 7 games, maybe 9. I'm just saying, if they're worried about what that quarterback situation is, what about the Tennessee Titans? I know that they're going to go out and get Cam Ward, but Will Levis or Aidan O'Connell, I would still say Will Levis is the better guy. But if you weren't 100% sold on Levis, could Aidan come in there and compete? The Green Bay Packers are always going to be a team that I'm going to throw out there just because of all the past Raiders that have gone to Green Bay due to a lot of relationships, especially one. I know Bisaccia and AOC don't have any crossover, but there is a lot of relationships because of that. The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, what exactly is the future around him? What if they didn't love any of these quarterback draft prospects? What if they weren't 100% sold on McCarthy? Minnesota, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they really only have Baker Mayfield, John Spytek, Tom Brady. A lot of relationships there to be had. The other reason why, though, that you could see a trade going on around Aidan, it's because maybe there's a team wanting to go up for a quarterback, wanting to move back, and I do think Aidan is a valuable trade piece in the draft because he is a quarterback. So what I do want to say before I hop on out of here is be on the lookout for another Raiders video a little bit later on today. The Chat Sports team, we're actually having a little bit of a dinner today at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, so some of us came in a little bit early to get out some extra content. You will get another video from me today. It's going to be around some of the Raiders news that happened over the weekend, some of the Raiders news that happened today. So be on the lookout for stuff around Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders, Will Johnson. I'll go into more detail coming up here in a little bit later on the Raiders Report.